with Season 2 just on the horizon. Today we're taking a look at Smiling Friends and ranking every character from good to evil. Spoilers ahead, and like usual we'll be starting with the most noble character and working our way down to the most evil. These characters are the good, and the winner of our gold medal of good truly needs no introduction. It's Smormu, the fifth Smiling Friend. The Smiling Friends are always there to help people smile, but that raises the question, what happens when they need to smile? Smormu is the much sought after answer to that question. He's elected as the fifth Smiling Friend in episode 3, and by the end of that very same episode, he's already on the job, dancing and singing to cheer Pim up after a job gone wrong. For him at least. Smormu was truly a kind soul who devoted himself to cheering up the people around him. Such impeccable musical talent could have easily been used to enslave all of us, but he only wanted to put smiles on the faces of the world's people. Our only mark against him was that he tragically died by the end credits. Why did you leave us, Smormu? But at least he's up there in heaven, alongside Gilbert Gottfried himself. Yes, really, and no, that wasn't a typo. There's no shortage of cartoons that have depicted God in very different ways, and Smiling Friends was one of the best. This is due in no small part to it being the first and only show to have given God one of the legendary Gilbert Gottfried's final performances before his passing. Here's to hoping God liked his performance, because we know we did. In the Christmas special, Charlie dies and doesn't come back. God gives Charlie a second chance after his untimely death by sending him on an adventure through hell, which actually isn't quite as bad as it sounds, to face his problems. When Charlie manages to make the devil smile in exchange for a return to the living world, God rescues him from being tortured by Satan when he threatens to not hold up his end of the deal.
I hope you learn from this cool experience.
It would have been nice to give him some clothes before waking him up, but you know what? Raising him from the dead was more than enough to make up for that. Our bronze medal of good has to go to Jennifer. Thanks to Pim's almost impressively poor eyesight, he mistakes a lady named Jennifer for Shrimp's girlfriend, Shrimpina.
I have never met this woman in my entire life.
And she may not be her, but she's nice, she works at a coffee shop, and she's into gamers with zero social skills. In fourth place, we have the first member of the main cast, Pim. Of all the Smiling Friends, Pim is the kindest and most outwardly caring of the bunch. He's devoted to never giving up on a client, even when it seems impossible, and takes that sense of optimism everywhere he goes. He's always ready to help, whether it's gathering firewood from a mysterious forest or dedicating himself to a client anyone else would see as a lost cause.
Hey there, little guy. What's got you upset?
Pim is also willing to make sacrifices for the sake of others. When he falls in love with a woman named Jennifer, he's tempted to go on a date with her instead of setting up one with Shrimp like he promised. But while he comes close, the sight of Shrimp crying at the bar with Charlie is enough to get him to do the right thing. This sense of compassion and positivity is at the heart of Pim's character, and really makes him a very SpongeBob-esque protagonist. Just a nice, cheery guy who wants people to be happy. Unfortunately, Pim's best characteristics are also his biggest weaknesses in terms of character. At times, he can grow critical of others who aren't as positive as him, which does reveal that he has a little bit of an ego. Pim can be very inconsistent on getting his way, and he's easily at his worst in the episode Enchanted Forest. Here, he's eager to help the princess of the Enchanted Forest smile again, and maybe do a few side quests here and there like he always dreamed of. But he ends up overwhelmed with bitterness and jealousy when Charlie becomes a hero and takes on all the side quests Pim wanted to do, and his subsequent violent outburst earns him the Envy Sinner Medal. But despite these faults, Pim will always apologize and do his best to right any wrongs he commits. At the end of the day, he's a loyal friend and an altruistic guy who just wants to create as much happiness as he can.
Hello, sir. Why the long face?
It is still weird that he kissed his dad on the mouth, though. Now it's time for our other main character, Charlie. Charlie is by far the more cynical of the main pair, given his more realistic approach to his work as a Smiling Friend. We have to give him a lot of credit, as we do all of the main cast, for all of his good deeds done through working for them. Charlie works hard to put smiles on the faces of even his worst clients. Like, seriously, nobody would blame you you for bailing on the dude who literally ripped your nose off your face. That is dedication. But as for why he's a bit lower than some of his buddies, well, while Charlie's cynicism is sympathetic to an extent, he can sometimes cross the line into borderline callous territory.
I actually thought it was pretty good. I liked it.
Most notably in his work with Desmond in the first episode. Calling someone a lost cause while on the job probably isn't the best way to handle things.
Pip, did you want to show Desmond anything else, or are we good?
Regardless, Charlie's always trying, and he has genuine compassion for the people around him, even comforting Shrimp when he's brokenhearted about losing Shrimpina. Plus, again, we can't put a guy who devotes his life to making people smile at a charity as anything short of a good guy. True to his name in every sense of the word, Shrimp is a shrimp in both the literal and metaphorical sense.
Cooked shrimp.
That doesn't mean he's any less of a decent guy though, although his depression at losing his girlfriend turns him into even more of a shut-in than he already was. He is a nice dude who just sincerely wants to win his ex-girlfriend's heart back. He may have lost that battle, but honestly, going from a shrimp to a full-on human lady as a partner is a pretty good upgrade. In the realm of minor characters, we can't forget about 3D Squelton. 3D Squelton is a simple man. He loves balloons, he hates lies, and he's constantly feeling the weight of despair by how much evil is in the world.
3D Squelton just doesn't see a point in living anymore. What's the point? Oh, boo-hoo-hoo!
Relatable on all accounts, really. But let's talk about the strangest character, Glep. This little green dude is a poet whose words transcend space and time itself. Glep really just likes to do his own thing, whether that's trying out to be the new Mr. Frog or planning to do some lady watching in Brazil. Nonetheless, Glep is a friendly guy who's never out to hurt anyone. We may not be sure at all what his job is here, but we're glad that he's doing it. That said, we have to rank him a bit lower for the fact that he is a bit less loyal to the Smiling Friends as an organization than Charlie and Pim, as shown by the fact that he briefly joined the Frowning Friends alongside Alan.
Alan? Glep? They have a better 401k. Sorry.
Now, money is one thing, but choosing domestic terrorism over charity is not cool. And at the tail end of our good section, we have the last Smiling Friend, Alan. While at first glance he might seem a bit callous, Alan is far from a bad guy. On the contrary, sure, he's less outwardly friendly than Pim, Glep, and even Charlie, which makes him seem less than approachable at first. But Alan's still working hard at the company to bring people smiles and help wherever he can.
Yeah, bye.
Whatever.
He seems to be more of a logistics guy, making sure everything in the fridge is accounted for, and that the strange creatures in the walls aren't taking his cheese. But he's not opposed to helping out with the Smiling Friends clients, especially if it benefits him. That said, we place him at the bottom of the good section for his role in the Season 2 premiere, which featured the legendary Gwimbly. Here, he sprays a homeless Gwimbly with dirty water from a hose for not leaving their property, and later he kicks a tiny critter in the face for startling him. While neither was necessarily malicious, these actions did prove that Alan isn't exactly the most patient guy around. Nonetheless, he's a nice enough guy so long as you aren't foolish enough to take his precious cheese from the fridge. But now we move on to the more questionable smiles in town. This is the gray area, possibly the hardest character to rank in terms of morality. First up in this tier is Mr. Boss. The eccentric owner of the company, Mr. Boss might seem like some sort of horrific cryptid at first, and frankly, that's not entirely out of the realm of possibility, given how oogly goo he seemed at the end of Gwimbly's episode.
Yep, guess I'm oogly goo.
But as far as cartoon bosses go, Mr. Boss is still easily one of the nicest. He gives his employees plenty of vacation time and even helps organize events for Halloween and Christmas. All of the boss's employees care about him, and it's not hard to see why. He genuinely cares for them as individuals and not just employees, and has a reputation as a decent enough guy. Seeing as how even Charlie was shocked in the Season 2 premiere when Pim mentioned him screaming at him. That's not to mention his kindness in breastfeeding the little critter on his desk in the first episode, which is just a really weird sentence that this show causes me to speak. So why is he in the gray area? It's a fair question, and it comes down to his methods of, we'll say, problem solving.
You know what you must do.
He has no problem with cannibalizing the forest demon over what he and the other partygoers perceived as blackface. And in the Frowning Friends episode, he was casually completely willing to murder Grim point blank with a shotgun, not even seeing it as a big deal.
Relax, man. I was just gonna shoot you in the head and kill you.
He's not a bad guy by any means. Again, he's remarkably nice from what we've seen from him so far. But Mr. Boss definitely has just enough instability and issues to warrant a more questionable place on our list. Next, let's talk about the legendary Gwimbly. This once beloved, and still beloved by Pim, gaming icon left his unappreciated company long ago to go for a solo career.
Yeah, well, I'll always be the iconic mascot of this damn stupid company.
And that confidence awards him the Pride Center Medal. But as you may know, pride often comes before destruction. Sadly, Gwimbly fell out of popularity long ago, becoming so desperate for money that he resorted to fan-requested dances and videos to keep his head above water. He's a decent enough guy in that he's not really out to hurt anybody. The guy's just trying to survive in an economy that prefers DLCs and microtransactions to kooky platforming icons. And let's not ignore that he was nice enough to do his iconic victory dance not once, but twice for free. Sadly though, we still have to place him in the gray area for his temper. He did threaten to murder his former boss and CEO for not giving him another shot at gaming fame. I mean, the CEO was a major jerk, but still not sure a threat of Gwimbly gun violence was the best way to go. Gwimbly is less of a morally questionable gray area entrant and more of a morally neutral one, and he's willing to say what most people won't. America has an effing fentanyl crisis. R.I.P. Mr. Millipede. And while we're in that neck of the woods, let's talk about the new and improved mascot of insane game-breaking games, Troglor. There's not much to be said about him, save for the fact that he has no problems following his boss and father's orders, even if they involve killing people. He's not a model citizen, but he was willing to trade violence for more violence, but this time in a Smash clone starring himself and his new best bud, Gwimbly. And speaking of that game, Smormu DLC when? That would be sure to cheer up even the saddest of clients, even Desmond. Just look at him. This guy is the physical manifestation of despair, nihilism, and depression. Charlie, despite pitying him, sees him as more or less a lost cause, and while it's far from the nicest way of putting things, we don't entirely blame him for seeing it that way. All of Pim's efforts to help Desmond ultimately end up in vain, and it's not until he kills Blimbly that he realizes his life still holds purpose. Desmond doesn't rank low because he's a bad guy for feeling this way. He's the furthest thing from bad or even immoral. But we place him here because the fact that killing something was what finally gave his life a sense of hope and purpose is a little questionable.
You, my friend, may have a blibbly infestation.
Even if it was one of those pesky bliblies. But at least with him around, Alan won't have to worry about his cheese getting stolen again anytime soon. Or about getting crucified. Man, he healed quick from that. Although they don't play anything close to a big role, Pim's family still deserves a mention. Most of them are only seen during a family dinner with Charlie and Desmond in the first episode, at which point they're shown to be pretty argumentative. Pim's sister, Amy, even tells Pim point blank that she absolutely hates him. The Wrath Medal is shared with all of these guys for their constant infighting, which frankly will probably make said fighting even worse. But fighting aside, we don't know enough about these guys on their own to call their morals particularly good or bad.
Tell me to shut up!
The one who we can give a little credit to both ways is his father, who's guilty of the same anger the rest of the family has, but also is shown via a flashback to be a protective father to his son. And rounding out the gray area is the legendary fast food tycoon, Simon S. Salty. Fast food in general is a business with at least some questionable moral implications. Good old Salty here is a great example. His food was so unhealthy that it was linked to at least 14 deaths. He seems to resent the media for painting his food as the problem, but to his credit, he did try to clean up his menu towards the end of his life, which put him on the wrong end of his mascot, sadly. It's a shame, really. Before being double murdered by all of his mascots in succession, he died after eating what he said would be his last burger before a healthy change of diet.
My final burger.
After today, I'm gonna start eating healthy.
Seems like he was on his way to a better moral compass and... Oh, wait, didn't he chain up the Century Egg mascot in his basement? That's, yeah, he's fairly placed here. But if nothing else, that slight desire for self-improvement is enough to keep him out of our final category. These guys are the bad and the evil. First up, we have the first episode's antagonists, the Bliblies. These pesky little guys live in the walls of their victims, stealing cheese and whatever else they want. They're highly aggressive when antagonized on any level. Even Alan, who wasn't trying to hurt them at all, was straight up crucified for trying to take his cheese back. We thought it would make sense to put them much higher given the sheer amount of destruction and violence they're capable of. But then we considered the fact that not only do Bliblies seem to have subhuman intelligence, but they don't seem to want to hurt anyone so long as they don't try to get back the food they stole fair and square. As such, they're definitely bad, but they're the least bad of the series' antagonists so far. Next, we have the first of the Frowning Friends, Gnarly. The Frowning Friends are, as the boss puts it, competition for the Smiling Friends. And as their name suggests, their goal is basically the opposite. Instead of giving smiles to people who ask for them, they take smiles away from others by dashing their hopes and dreams into pieces.
You guys even do? Shut up, man.
Gnarly is only this low because he's the less evil of the two. Which brings us to Pim's evil counterpart, Grim. He's every bit as determined to spread hopelessness and depression as Gnarly, but with the added bonus of wanting to eradicate all Puerto Rican people from the planet. A statement he quickly retracts so as not to lose the people's favor. While the Frowning Friends are awful, we don't drop them any lower because of the fact that, by Grimm's own admission, they're only telling the truth, even when it hurts. What they're doing is still definitely malicious, but if nothing else, they aren't exactly being deceptive about it. There's also their realization that happiness feels good in their final moments. If they had lived longer, maybe we would have seen a redemption arc. But there just wasn't enough time left in the episode for that, sadly. But let's talk about the Forest Demon. This guy's entire role in the Halloween special is terrorizing Pim for trespassing in his forest. And can we just say, man, he did a good job. This guy is scary. We'd really like to place him lower, but if nothing else, he did deny the whole blackface Halloween costume allegation.
No, you don't understand. I'm literally a forest demon from across the bridge. This isn't a costume.
Showing that while he is a murderous demon, he's not racist. So good for him. Next up, we have Mr. Frog's former boss, Rex. Sure, his list of crimes is nowhere near as long or severe as his clients, but Rex makes up for it by having basically no sympathetic qualities.
Okay.
Yes?
Get out. Now.
He coldly insulted the actors trying out for Mr. Frog's replacement and pretty much showed no appreciation to either Mr. Frog or his temporary replacement, Glep, even threatening the latter to get him to follow his own directions for the show. Tack on his physical and verbal abuse of his employees, and you've got a real scumbag who definitely doesn't deserve to be running things. Though, admittedly, we're not sure if being eaten alive was quite a proportional response. We've already talked about Salty, so now let's talk about his would-be killers, the mascot. Charlie said it best. None of these mascots should be walking the streets by any means, even if Salty technically died from a heart attack. These guys all had their reasons to hypothetically murder Salty, but reasons aren't the same as justifications. And even if they were, the moment they were able to flee from the premises, they all got back to various crimes. So there's no indication that these guys were even stable to begin with, really. They may look endearing, but these guys are all total psychopaths with no regard for human life. Well, except for Grease. He seems nice, so I hope he's doing well. We've now made it to the bottom 5, so say hello to Mr. Frog. While it may seem harsh to place everyone's favorite celebrity in the bad category,
I'm Mr. Frog. This is my show. I eat the bug.
we have to consider that even though he isn't necessarily malicious, Mr. Frog is genuinely one of the most dangerous characters in the whole show. By his own admission, he didn't feel sorry for eating an interviewer alive, so we're gonna give him the gluttony medal and call that self-explanatory. And his combination of drug abuse and violent, impulsive tendencies make Mr. Frog one of the most dangerous, albeit hilarious characters. He attempts to strangle a fan for basically no reason, and even when he goes on live TV to finally apologize for his behavior. The way he wins his audience back is by eating his former boss. Mr. Frog might be occasionally friendly and always hilarious, but this amoral amphibian is one of the last characters you want to be alone with. Now, surprisingly, Satan is actually just outside of our bottom 3. Yeah, the literal devil. Our reasoning for placing him anywhere but the bottom spot is more or less that he's just doing his job. He expresses that he doesn't get paid until the end of his job, and since that job lasts for eternity, that sweet paycheck will always be just out of reach.
It's eternity. So I just don't even care anymore. I just don't care anymore.
So it's hard to blame him for getting complacent. And he's even decently nice to delivery drivers, which is a good trait a lot of people lack. Unfortunately, Satan is still, well, Satan. He may not be the pure evil image he's usually thought of as in this show, but he still derives immense pleasure from torturing people, especially if they piss him off. He even goes back on his deal with Charlie to let him go back to Earth if he makes him smile. Being a devil is one thing, but being a devil who doesn't keep a deal is a whole new level of evil. Regardless, our last 3 characters are truly pure evil. The bronze medal of evil has to go to the CEO. At first, the CEO might seem like, well, the stereotypical CEO. He's greedy, gluttonous, and rude, refusing to give Gwimbly another shot in the studio he launched into success in the first place. Though he was kind enough to offer him a chicken nugget.
Only if you kiss my nugget.
But that would be where the good attributes begin and end. And if his determination to sit on his Gwimbly IP and do nothing with it wasn't cold enough, when he finds out Gwimbly is planning to go solo and make his own game with the friend's help, the CEO enlists the help of his new mascot, Troglor, to murder him. That's next level corporate greed, giving him the Greed Sinner medal very easily. Oh, and if you thought this might be a villain who cares about his minions scenario, as he himself would say, wrong. This dude uses Troglor's face as a dipping tray for his chicken nuggets, and verbally abuses him when he's hesitant to shoot indoors.
What? Shoot! Do it now, you idiot!
A rule the CEO himself instated. But the very same episode has an even worse character, James, our silver medalist of evil. As with any charitable organization, there are always going to be some jerks who take advantage of it. And for smiling friends, James fills that category quite nicely. When Charlie reveals that the organization has to do anything their client asks until they genuinely smile, James immediately takes advantage of it.
Wait, so can you make me smile then?
He berates him, destroys his property, rejects the very food he asked for, and worst of all, he straight up rips Charlie's nose off his face. Frankly, we really wish we could give him the gold medal. But then there's the post-credits scene of the episode where it's suggested he struggles with substance abuse and actually regrets driving away Charlie, who he describes as the only person who really cared about him. We do hope James gets the help he needs, but, well, maybe part of that help is a restraining order from Charlie and the company. Now, this might be a bit of a hot take, but we're giving the gold medal of evil to Mip, the false hero of the Enchanted Forest. Throughout the episode, he seems to be a genuinely good guy. He rescues Charlie and Pim from being cooked up by a witch, heals Charlie's headache via a potion, and even helps him become a hero worthy of delivering a special package to the princess. That said, all of this mistaken good nature is the exact reason he's at our bottom spot. Because despite appearances, Mip is the furthest thing from a hero. That potion he gave to Charlie, it affected him well into the next day, so there's no telling what he tried to do to him. As for rescuing Charlie and Pim, well, it turns out he was never a hero at all. He just wanted someone to deliver that special package to the princess, who reveals that he's been stalking her.
He's my stalker.
So yeah, we gotta give him the Lust Sinner medal. But it gets worse. Mip's special package was actually a freaking bomb. This guy planned to turn Pim and Charlie into unknowing suicide bombers for the princess, and the fact he insisted on sending someone else to do so implies that he was definitely willing to do it again in the future.
Mip is getting pretty sleepy.
Mip was an absolute menace, and we can only hope that melting actually was a death, and not just a weird witch, hobbit, whatever he is thing.